Ho ho! Your boy has been challenged to a tag. This is new. So I have a friend over in the Goosebumps YouTube community known as Goosebumps Completionist. Many of you people may know him. A lot of you people are probably subscribed to him. We've done buddy reads before. He's in the Discord, the main Goosebumps Discord with me. And we have similar YouTube friends, Monster Blood, Grayson the Goosebumps Kid, and a bunch of different guys that he has tagged within this challenge. And this challenge is none other than asking us what our Mount Rushmore for Goosebumps is, aka what is the top 4 best stories in your opinion that hold up as basically the Hall of Fame for Goosebumps. Now, this is relatively difficult for me only because I'm pretty sure that I am the newest reader amongst the Goosebumps reviewer community. I am extremely new to the game. There are a lot of stories that I have not read yet, and a lot of them I think have been bragged about to being very good that I've not experienced quite yet. So quite possibly in the future, and most likely in the future, I'm going to make an updated Hall of Fame for Goosebumps, except it'll be the top 5 best Goosebumps stories in the future once I pretty much read everything and I know that I've gotten to all the good stuff. So yeah, there will probably also be a top 5 worst, aka straight doo-doo garbage list on the bottom 5, the absolute septic tank scum. But this is Mount Rushmore. This is the best 4 stories of Goosebumps. It could be short stories, it could be full-length novels, it could be episodes to TV adaptations and such. So what is my Mount Rushmore? Now, I've never been good with history. I sucked at history. I failed that class often. And American history was the most boring goddamn class to me in all of high school and middle school, and as much as I had to learn it. So I'm not going to be specifically going off of what the presidential traits are to what the books are. I'm just going to be listing off my top 4, and I'll do it in order from what I think is the least best to the absolute best that I think represents Goosebumps and the true peak content that Goosebumps could be. So yeah, let's talk about it. So to start off, I'm going to go with probably my first pick, which is the first one in my Mount Rushmore. This is the bottom of the 4, but it's still incredibly amazing, and I would recommend it to everybody. And coincidentally, I'm pretty sure that this story represents George Washington, because it is none other than the very first Goosebumps official story to drop, official Goosebumps book to drop, which is on my number 4 list. The first one in my Mount Rushmore for Goosebumps is the Welcome to Dead House book. That's right. Welcome to Dead House is my favorite story in the OG 62 novel run so far. It got a 9.8 out of 10, and I think that it is absolutely, and I mean this, I think it is absolutely fantastic. Welcome to Dead House is my favorite Goosebumps stories in the OG 62 so far, and one of my favorite stories of all time right now for Goosebumps, because of the fact of how dark it is. It is one of the most dark, brutal, gruesome Goosebumps books. That's a tongue twister. Gruesome Goosebumps books. It is one of the most darkest books in the Goosebumps series ever. And it's pretty clear that Stein has never touched this level of dark content for a while, if at all, except for this first book. Now, the Goosebumps series was sitting on the shelves a lot of the time until I think Night of the Living Dummy 1 dropped, and I pretty much picked up the series and everyone started picking up the books and getting popularity. But Welcome to Dead House is probably one of the number 1 reasons why parents were protesting kids reading Goosebumps back then, because there's a lot of dark, gruesome scenes in here. There are some violent body horror depths in here. There's a dream sequence in Welcome to Dead House about the main character seeing her family as a bunch of rotten dead skeletons eating a bunch of moldy rotten bones at the dinner table as foreshadowing for the dark stuff to come. Extremely dark. She swears she sees people inside of her house, and they have this very violent scene involving a certain character meeting their fate towards the end of the book. You have this mass death sequence. You have this very dark comedy twist ending to the book. Overall, it is a really great package, really sinister, and somehow still feels like prime Goosebumps. The story, for those who don't know, is about a group of kids, daughter and son, who move in with their parents to a new house in a place called Dark Falls. Now, Dark Falls is this extremely dark and dreary place. It's always cloudy, always dark. It seems to be damn near abandoned. There's nobody there. The landlord seems to be this very monotone, fishy guy who just seems very shady. He just seems very kind of brooding. He's showing them around the place. They feel like he's hiding something. And as they enter the house, they swear they can see people inside of their house. They think that they see figures in the rooms, and that at night they feel like somebody's watching them. Someone's breaking into their house. People are in the house with them. And as soon as they look again, there's nobody there. It's very dark. On thunderous, stormy nights, they'll feel like they're not alone in the house. At least not alone in the sense of not just them and their family. There's a death of a pet in this book. They start to uncover things about the town as to what the secrets of the dark town may be, and they find out that things are much more dark and sinister than they may have intended when they moved in. So yeah, this book is on my Mount Rushmore, the book version, not the episode. The episode is very good, but I do think the book is superior, and Welcome to Dead House so far is my favorite OG62 book. It gets a 9.8 out of 10, and it is on my Mount Rushmore. It's one that I would recommend to everybody to read, and even as an adult, there's a lot of creepy, horrific scenes in this kid's horror book that would probably leave you nightmares if you had to imagine it or go through it in real life. So yeah, really great job, Stein. The first book in the Goosebumps series is actually one of the best Goosebumps books of all time, and a lot of people agree with me. I am one of the people who have this as my favorite in the OG run. So that is the first one on my Mount Rushmore, the first head, Welcome to Dead House, the book. The second one on my Mount Rushmore actually comes from the TV show, and this is a TV adaptation for a well-loved book as well. Now, this book is also from the OG62 run. It's a well-loved book. This is actually a book that was one of the first books I ever read. This book and How to Kill a Monster were some of the very few and first Goosebumps books that I ever read as a kid. For many of you who may not know, I think I mentioned it early on in my Goosebumps reviews. As a kid, I used to grab the books from my public library as well as my school library. And I used to just collect them for the Tim Jacobus covers. I really liked the artwork. I loved the way the books looked. I loved the Tim Jacobus covers, and I used to collect them and keep them in my book all the time, look at the covers, read a couple pages here and there, and read the blurbs. The only couple books that I read as a kid in the entirety, and then I never read for a long time. I watched the TV show a lot, but the books I only read a handful of. And the two that I read in the very beginning were How to Kill a Monster and The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. Now, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp was actually the first Goosebumps book that I read going back into Goosebumps as an adult. I did not touch Goosebumps for many, many years, and I got back into it, and I decided to start doing reviews on it. So The Werewolf of Fever Swamp was the very first book that I got back into and I read, and it's been a long time. I vaguely remembered some things about it, but I didn't really remember the whole book structure. I read it when I was in elementary school, so I forgot so much about it. And reading it as a adult, it holds up surprisingly well. It's a very well-loved book, a very well-regarded book. Even when I talked to some of my friends who haven't read Goosebumps in a very long time, they said that they remember The Werewolf of Fever Swamp being one of their favorite books. And I truly did love the book. I think I gave it a 9.2 out of 10. Or a 9 out of 10. It was a solid book. Although it does get very predictable if you read it more than once. The first time that you read it, or if you've read it after a long time, like I did, it's a really refreshing experience and lets you know why Goosebumps still holds up after all these years. However, the book is not the one on my Mount Rushmore. It is, in fact, the episode of Goosebumps, the adaptation of Werewolf of Fever Swamp, that is on my Mount Rushmore, and it's next up. This one I also gave a 9.8 out of 10. However, I do slightly prefer it over Welcome to Dead House novel, so therefore it's the next one on my Mount Rushmore. This episode is pretty much damn near a movie. It is unbelievably well done. It has an incredible atmosphere to it involving the environment. Fever Swamp is shown in a lot of glory in regards to how dark and creepy and sinister the unknown of the woods and the bog and the swamp can be. You have the crazy swamp hermit who is played extremely well. You get this real wild sense from him. You get this intimidating presence from him. You see how kind of savage he is, how animalistic he is. You see how paranoid Grady becomes in terms of basically, getting fearful about what could be in the woods, what could be in the swamp, those strange noises he hears, the fact that he feels like the animals around in the neighborhood are getting killed, they're in danger. His dad's deer that are getting researched, they're getting riled up. Some of them are getting targeted. So he feels like he's being targeted. He's the small chicken in the chicken coop, and outside is this bloodthirsty fox that's coming after him. Or in this case, a wolf, a werewolf. So yeah, this episode has a great atmosphere, and the climax to the Werewolf of Fever Swamp episode is incredibly well done as well. The scene of Grady's sister getting chased by the werewolf in the house is incredibly tense. It puts you on the edge of your seat. You feel like you're there and you're screaming at her to juke and run and get out of there safely. You get terrified that she might get snatched at any moment. You feel really scared for her. The transformation sequences for the werewolf are incredibly well done. I love the practical effects for the werewolf. And the barnyard scene where the mom and the sister are locked up in there and this thing is attacking the outside of the barn. It's climbing up on the roof and trying to break in. It's shaking it. It's roaring. It's screaming. It's trying to get in and kill them. It's breaking through the wood and trying to grab them. And then Grady and the dog have to distract the werewolf in order to save their family. That's very intense climax. Like, that's a super intense climax. It's very climactic. It's very action packed. The book is not as action packed as the episode is. The episode has way more action, way more high intense scenes than the book does. The book is more so solving a mystery and the creepy things that happen, and eventually you solve the mystery and it's this big reveal. Here it's the reveal is kept, but it's this steady creepy atmosphere. The idea that things are becoming more and more intense like the book did. However, during the climax, it's a much more action-packed scene. You get all this action of the entire family being targeted. It's not just Grady. His parents, his family's being targeted. He's being targeted. Wolf, the dog, is being targeted. And you even get this sense of sympathy from the villain. Like, when you find out who the villain is, there's a scene in the episode which provides a sense of sympathy towards him, because you realize that this may not be directly what they're willing to do. They're not as bloodthirsty as they were in the book. The things that they're doing in the episode is more so, it feels like it's against their will. It's this animalistic urge to do something. It's not necessarily they, are evil and the bad person and they're gonna chase after the main character and, eat them or kill them. No. It feels like it's like they're fighting it in the episode. They're trying to save the main character, trying to stop themselves from going after the family, but the animalistic urges won't stop. And when they get taken over, they completely lose control and go full primal creature. That is so badass. It adds such a nice touch to the episode. And Wolf actually plays a much better part in the episode than it does in the book, because Wolf actually gets to play an active role in the climax and has a very badass finisher scene to save one of the characters in the book. And it's extremely well done. Again, reconnects and reforms the relationship between man and dog, the owner relationship, the best friend relationship, and honestly adds more weight to Wolf's character and adds for a much more badass climax. A much more sinister, far more sinister climax, I feel like, towards what happens. The only reason I took point 2 off was the ending, which I do feel like I enjoyed the ending to the book more. The ending to the episode I don't enjoy as much, but the rest of it is fantastic to the point that it has earned itself on my Mount Rushmore. So that is the next one on my Mount Rushmore list. Let me take a little quick sip. I've been talking a lot. Yeah. So that's half of my Mount Rushmore list. So you see that I have episodes in here and I have books in here. And it's funny because the next two are actually one book and one episode. So the episodes take up half of my Mount Rushmore and books take up half of my Mount Rushmore. I'm not in preference one way or the other. I think the show does certain things that are better than the books and does certain better adaptations. And I feel like there are books that are, that didn't get adapted that should have got adapted. They're standout, or their novel comparisons do a better job than the book. So I'm not biased in any way. I just choose which one is better in my opinion, and therefore that's what I pick from. This is stale, by the way. This is flat. But either way, gotta wet the throat. Pause. Next on my Mount Rushmore, number 3. Now this is my second favorite Goosebumps story of all time, as of right now. And this book is actually a standalone book. There is no adaptation for it from the TV show, although it could have been done. This book could have very easily been adapted into the TV show and actually had a great job done with it. I definitely think the TV show could have done this one justice if they would just stick faithful to the book, and everything within this book can easily be done within the TV show. It's not out of budget. It's not some crazy story. This book is essentially the best coming of age story that Goosebumps has. And this is actually not from the OG series, this is from Series 2000. This book has probably one of the best main characters in all of Goosebumps. This main character essentially moves into a brand new neighborhood, a new school, and tries to leave his past persona behind. His past persona was one that was very cowardly, one that was often looked down upon, the reason why he got bullied, the reason why he never felt like he was in the spotlight, he never got justice to who he is. It's the reason why he felt like kids always picked on him, because kids didn't know who he really was, and he felt really insecure about how he was in the past. So now that he's moved to a brand new school, he feels like he can have a new identity. He can restart his life, basically start with a new persona. He could actually be liked for once instead of targeted and bullied, and he can make brand new friends and start on a brand new slate. However, the ghosts from his past come to hunt him down, and once they try to find out some of the truth behind who he actually is, internally, he has to basically fight and prove that the faked persona that he's created is actually who he is. He needs to do it to make sure he doesn't continue getting bullied, and that he can keep this new life that he's very much enjoying, this Hall of Fame, this, hero complex that all of a sudden everybody's giving him. It's a great coming of age story, and the reason why this book is on my Mount Rushmore is because I believe, now I could be wrong, I don't know if I'm wrong or not, I believe this is the only Goosebumps story that does not involve any supernatural or larger than life threat. This is what I mean by that. This book does not involve any monsters, it doesn't involve any ghosts, it doesn't involve any shapeshifters, it doesn't involve any people with superpowers, it doesn't involve any robots or hyper technology that is damn near God at that point. There is no bad luck or dark future stuff going on in the story. There is nothing out of the ordinary involving the scares, the villains, the horror involving this book. Everything is grounded at a human level, meaning everything within this book could happen in real life. Everything can happen in real life. And if it were to be adapted in the TV show, everything could have been done, because it would have been horror stuff that these guys could easily replicate. There's nothing supernatural. This could be something that could have happened to you or me or somebody you know. That's what this book is. And that is none other than Series 2000, number 3 on my Mount Rushmore, aka the second best story in all of Goosebumps in my opinion. Are You Terrified Yet? Are You Terrified Yet? Is my number 3 on my Mount Rushmore. This Series 2000 book is the best coming of age story in all of Goosebumps. Craig is the main character, a boy who was known as a scaredy cat, a complete bitch back in his school days, and essentially he got bullied for it. He couldn't make any friends, he couldn't gain any confidence, because that's all he was bullied and known for as. Now when he moves to a new school, he has the ability to make everybody think that he's this brave guy. He's afraid of nothing. He's a neighborhood hero. He could save people, and he ends up getting into situations where it's made to look like he's the one directly saving and helping people, even though he's not. So he's gained this false persona of the superhero of the neighborhood. People look up to him. This girl, I think her name is Amy, I think she looks up to him. She's basically kind of like has a crush on him, looks up to him, sticks up for him, wants to protect him, wants to make sure he stays famous and that everybody knows how much of a great and brave guy he is. However, some local kids from the school, some neighborhood bullies, kind of have some reasons to figure out why he may actually be a scaredy cat, because they know some people who went to Craig's school and that there was a reputation of him being the scaredy cat. He tries to play it off and say they're making it up. His friend Amy says that they're making it up, and now Craig has to take on the bets that these bullies assign to him as a way to prove that he is actually the brave guy that everybody thinks he is. And this involves things like sticking his hand into a jar full of tarantulas that are crawling all over his hand, the bristly hair, the legs, the fangs scraping against his skin, all that stuff. He's got like hundreds, thousands of spiders crawling all over his hand, like literally crawling all over, and he has to keep his hand in there. He realizes he can't take out his hand, it's stuck in there. He has to hug a dead body. He has to literally go up to corpses in a, like, what is it called, like a mortician's place? I don't know what that place is called, or the morgue. He has to go up to corpses in the morgue and hug them and sit in coffins with them. That is how dark this book is. That's how gross this book is. This book plays on stuff that could actually happen to you and me, and that leaves you more so to resonate with Craig, because this is real life horror, stuff that could happen to any of us, and it makes us realize that this guy truly is brave. He's stuck in this terrible predicament that he has to either sacrifice his comfort but then be known as a scaredy cat, or he has to step up to the plate and prove that he's brave at the cost of his own sanity and life. And the twist climax is very brilliantly done. It kind of shows the level of intellect behind the main character, and a nice little twist that kind of turns the tables on the master manipulators of the book. And also the twist ending, well, not so twist ending, but the very last kind of page of the book is a nice little nod as to why you love Craig and why he's such a lovable main character. Because even though he's gone through this whole journey of proving why he's so brave and accomplishing these things that no other kid or person would ever willingly or sanely ever do, and that shows that he truly is the brave guy that he's always doubted himself to be, he still internally has that little bit of a scaredy cat persona that each and every one of us has, and he kind of lets down his guard and proves that he's still a true vulnerable guy at the end of the book, but done in a very charismatic and a little bit of a funny, charming way. So yeah, this book is fantastic. This one actually gets a 10 out of 10 for me. There is no flaws within this book. This is a fantastic book. And if it wasn't for my personal preference and what I better think represents Goosebumps with the first pick, this would easily be up there as my favorite Goosebumps book of all time so far. This is I think this is the only Goosebumps book so far that has gotten a 10 out of 10 for me, with the exception of one short story from a Tales collection, which again, it's a short story, still a fantastic story, but it's a short story, so I grade them differently. This is the only novel that got a 10 out of 10 for me so far, and it deserves every bit of it. So for all of you who have not chosen a Goosebumps book to read yet, maybe you're getting back into the series, maybe you've only read a few books, maybe you've read all the books, but you haven't read this one. Read Are You Terrified Yet? It's one of the best Goosebumps books of all time. It gets a 10 out of 10 for me. It's the best coming of age story. It's the only Goosebumps book that doesn't have any supernatural aspect. It's all real life horror that could happen to you and me. And you have one of the best main characters of all time, one of the most relatable characters of all time, and a true hero and brave guy that we all can love and stand by, who is Craig. Now, number one, my Mount Rushmore, the last one on my Mount Rushmore, the best Goosebumps story of all time, goes to the TV show. The TV show has one episode, one TV adaptation story that manages to be the best kids horror episode story, one of the best kids horror story episode, whatever you want to call it, in kids horror media that I've ever read or watched. And that is Monster Blood 2. No, I'm kidding. It is the Haunted Mask 2 episode. That's right. The number one greatest story in Goosebumps. On my Mount Rushmore, the forefront, the Abraham Lincoln, the best of the best. It is the Haunted Mask 2 episode. The Haunted Mask 2 episode has everything you could want in kids horror. It has charismatic characters. It has the Halloween setting, one of the best settings in all of kids horror. A suburban town taking place on Halloween. You have one of the best villains of all time, the Haunted Mask, the original Haunted Mask, which proves itself to be such a sinister and dark threat in this sequel. You have the fourth part, which is the fact that it's a sequel, yet it's better than the first episode, and it is the perfect embodiment of what Goosebumps is. You have horror, you have body horror, you have terrifying villains, the haunted mask taking over the shop owner, you have great comedy involving Carly Betts' dynamic with her friends, her chicken dance. You have the fact that the what is it, Steve's friend came as that mafia dude. That's hilarious. And you have the idea of two main characters uniting into one story. That's right. You have Carly Beth, the girl who conquered the haunted mask story, or the Haunted Mask 1 story. She conquered her fears, became the new coolest kid in town, went from a scaredy cat like Craig to a new hero that's not afraid of anything. And then you have Steve, her bully, the kid who bullied and tormented her in the first Haunted Mask story and episode. And now he's here, and he's the victim of the haunted mask, a different haunted mask, one that makes him into an old man, that takes away the confidence that he has of being this young bully who can go up on anyone and flex his chest and scare everybody and the coolest kid in town. Now he's this old man who's slowly dying, who can't breathe anymore, who's losing oxygen, who may be stuck in that way for the rest of his life, who has spiders crawling over his hair and his nose and on his eyes. He's put in the most vulnerable position of his life, all because of his ego. And he realizes that now not only has his ego taken him into almost irreversible consequences, but now he is in the most vulnerable state of his life, and he ends up getting manipulated by the shopkeeper possessed by the first haunted mask. The first haunted mask guy comes in like some anime supervillain out here looking for Carly Beth, walking through like Vilgax from Ben 10, hunting down Carly Beth, wanting to kill her, wanting to get revenge, possessing the shopkeeper and forcing him to do stuff against his will. And he hunts down Steve, and he tries manipulating Steve, man. He tries manipulating Steve. He says, you get me Carly Betts' plaster head that defeated me the first time, and I want you to destroy it in the cemetery. And if you do, I'll take off the haunted mask that possesses you right now. And Steve, not being able to breathe, being in an irreversible effect where he can't take off the mask at the point that he may die and suffer the rest of his life, and the way that the haunted mask tells him that he will torture him in ways that he can't imagine, have spiders crawling under his skin, and as soon as the shopkeeper says it, Steve starts squirming. He can feel the spiders crawling under his skin. He begs for his life and says, I'll help you, and he destroys the plastered head. And then the haunted mask says, psych, bitch. You were never on my level. You just another victim. Carly Betts going down, and you going down with her. And he's like a Chad. I'm talking about like a big body Chad. He posted up like Sasuke. For any of you who watch anime, you know what I'm saying. Sasuke from Naruto, just the stance, bro. Just the stance, bro. I can see this man, even though it's not in the episode. I can see this haunted mask possessing the shopkeeper on top of a gravestone, sitting just like this. Just like this, or over like, like a burial, like over one of the coffins, just like sitting on top of a coffin like this. He dug it up himself. We don't know how much time that took, but he dug it up. He said just like this. And he's like, boy, he's like, you boy, I'm gonna torture and kill you right now in front of her. And her, you're the reason that she's gonna die tonight, and you're the reason why you're gonna die tonight as well. Because you failed not only yourself, you failed her, and you failed this entire town, because now when I'm done with you two, there won't be anything stopping me from rampaging around and causing trouble every Halloween night for the rest of eternity. One of the greatest Goosebumps stories of all time. The climax is so intense. The ending at the very end is pretty much sweet. It's the sense of victory, the sense of, capability of the two main characters uniting forces and conquering the day and putting their differences aside to come together. And then the very twist ending is, well, the nightmare can always return. For every night that Halloween happens, for every holiday that comes after, there's always a chance that the bumps in the night can become more than bumps in the night, and they may be coming for you as we speak. From the dark, deepest abyss. Viewer beware. You're in for a scare. And that's it for my Mount Rushmore. Those are the four stories on my Mount Rushmore. You have Welcome to Dead House the book. You have Werewolf of Fever Swamp the episode. You have Are You Terrified Yet? And finally at number 1, the Haunted Mass 2 episode. That's it for this video. Thank you for tagging me, Goosebumps Completionist. I absolutely love the fact that you're including all the community in here. We haven't had a tag video in a long time, so shout out to him. I'm gonna link Goosebumps Completionist channel down below. Although you guys, plenty of you know him, so go subscribe to him. He's the one who started this. Go check out everybody else's Mount Rushmore videos that drop, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be making updated lists in the future. However, for now, we have more reviews coming. If you like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Be sure to hit that like button down below. It's a free way to support me. It lets me know you guys are engaged. So all of you watching right now, go subscribe, go hit that like button, and there's more content to come. You have Haunting Hour, boom. You have Are You Afraid of the Dark, bam. You have Goosebumps, whoa. You have Stephen King, Entering the Ring. He's coming in here soon. You got Robert Hirschfield, which I'll be reading soon enough. You got Goosebumps knockoffs. I'm talking about Spine Tinglers. I'm talking about Bone Chillers. I'm talking about Shadow Zone and American Chillers and stuff like that. We got that coming. All the kids horror, all the adult horror, we're going to be covering it on here. And I just dropped 2 Creepshow videos back to back. Go check those out. Those are my most recent uploads. More stuff like that to come. Stay tuned for this channel. I am BD Horror for those who have not met. Again, if you like this content and the other stuff on my channel you checked out, subscribe button, like button, follow my Twitter, and follow the people that also did their Mount Rushmore videos that were tagged in Goosebumps Completionist original video. And yeah, stay tuned for more to come. I hope you guys enjoyed, and have a great and wonderful rest of your day. And make sure that the bumps in the night that you hear many often is, well, just bumps in the night, because you never know what might be lurking in the darkness. See y'all, and goodbye. Jesus Christ, I lost my voice. I lost my throat capacity because my mouth is all dried up, and this is still time to go hit the grocery store. And thank God it's still bright outside, because I swear to God, I thought I saw the shopkeeper with the haunted mask outside of my shed last night. Although that's just my mind playing tricks on me, right? Right.